Down more than 50% in the last 12 months. Has AMD finally found a bottom, or is this just a sinking ship? Here to break down the latest price action on this stock is MarketBeat analyst Thomas Hughes. Thomas, we just did a video on AMD exactly 1 month ago where we talked about did AMD find a bottom then? And we found out that wasn't the bottom quite yet.
Right. It wasn't quite the bottom, and it still might not quite be at the bottom, but there are a lot of signs suggesting that it is very close and that it's setting up for a pretty strong rebound.
Let's get into that on the chart right now. We're going to talk about what analysts have to say, but let's dive into the chart right now a little deeper.
Yeah, the AMD chart's pretty interesting. This is the weekly chart we're looking at right now. And you can see that there are actually two bubbles kind of in play. We have right over here on the far left side, there's the COVID bubble, the COVID letdown. And then we have the AI bubble and the AI letdown. What we see right now happening is AMD's bubble was inspired by NVIDIA's rise and the rise of the data center business and the rise of AI. But we've learned since then that NVIDIA's first mover position gave it a big advantage. AMD didn't have quite the boost or the boom in business that NVIDIA did, and now the market has corrected. But what's happened is the market has overran sentiment. It's moved below the analyst's lowest price target range, and now it is trading at what I consider to be a very significant support zone.
Yeah, it fell below what last month you said was that critical support line. How far
Yeah.
below that line has it fallen so far?
Technical targets are not precise. I can't say that support is at $100.13. You can say that it's going to be near there. And so when the market was pulling back, we're looking at these two lines here as potential support. It's pegged to this peak here and to these two troughs there. Gives us a nice little zone of support where a signal may form. So like I said, we can't quite say for sure that a bottom has been found yet, but we're in this zone where a bottom is very highly likely. I will say that if the market were to move below this lower line, we would be in danger of a much deeper decline, but that would be a conversation for a different video.
Of course, we will continue to follow it wherever this stock goes. But let's talk about what the analysts are saying on AMD. Those price target adjustments seem to have an impact on the stock right now.
So a lot of AMD's price decline since early 2024 is due to analyst price target revisions. Once it became clear that AMD wasn't going to see the same boom in data center business that NVIDIA did, they began to lower their price targets. That did have a negative effect on the price action, caused it to trend lower. But during that time, they maintained a firm moderate buy rating. They still saw the stock as a buy, and they still see upside. So what's happened is that the market has adjusted along with the analysts, but it's overrun their sentiment. Analyst sentiment sees this stock trading at 110 at the low end of their range, which is a good 10% higher than where it is now. And the consensus estimate is more than 50% higher. So like I said, this is one of those factors that suggests the market is setting up for a pretty significant rebound.
That's a very optimistic look at this stock. But like you said, market sentiment is not so optimistic on AMD. Many investors feel that AMD is just a falling knife and it just has further to fall. And a lot of investors have lost a lot of money. Does that make it harder to overcome that negative sentiment for AMD?
It certainly is hard to buy a stock when it's down, especially if you've been losing money. But we have to remember that the long-term outlook for this stock is still pretty robust. It didn't see quite the boom that NVIDIA did, but its data center business is still growing at a triple-digit pace. It's underpinning growth across the network. Its PC and client business is also doing well. It started to grow again, and the gaming segment should revert to growth again pretty soon. The long-term outlook includes a multi-year, multi-phase upgrade cycle that includes data centers and personal computers as well as the IoT. So each year as they develop newer, more powerful AI models, AMD is going to be developing newer, more powerful chips for the IoT and for PCs. And that's going to sustain a very long and robust growth cycle. The company's looking at 10 to 20% CAGR over the next few years, widening margins. All are positives for the stock price.
Let's talk about the industry as a whole. There is some debate out there that AI was just a bubble and that the slowdown is more than just a little slowdown. Some are saying that there's no more growth to be had in AI. You talked about it a little bit already, but why do you feel that there's still a strong future for AI? And are we just at the beginning of growth for this sector?
Well, right, AI has only just begun. The first models have only just begun to be released. We've had this as a story for us for the last 2 years, but when it came to prominence, came to the forefront, all of these data centers hadn't been built yet. All of these NVIDIA GPUs hadn't been built yet. So the last 2 years has been NVIDIA scrambling to ramp supply and the hyperscalers scrambling to build data centers. Those are only just now coming online. So all of the promise that was first seen in the AI boom has yet to come. So as soon as these data centers are built, we'll start seeing more models being released. We'll see more services being released. We'll see more penetration of business and consumer needs with AI. This is a cycle that's got many, many years to run, decades to run.
For investors who are right there with Thomas and are bullish on the future of AI, check out our free special report on 7 AI stocks to invest in today. You can scan the QR code or click the link in the description of the video to get that free report on MarketBeat.com right now. Let's talk about a little more of the bears argument as well, that there's some other economic factors also coming into this industry, and that includes the potential of tariffs.
Tariffs are certainly a threat. I'm not going to say there's not going to be a threat or that it's not going to impact AMD's business moving forward. However, tariffs are not a new threat. Many of the tariffs that have been impacting AMD's business have been around for years. They've merely accelerated and will accelerate a shift that's already underway, which is to reshore and onshore U.S. supply chains and to move them away from China. So yes, tariffs are a threat, but it's not a new threat, and it's part of a story that's already been unfolding for many years.
The latest headlines this week are that President Trump is still considering some additional tariffs on chips from Taiwan, and that could directly impact AMD in some ways. Explain that a little bit.
Yeah, that would be a pretty big hit for AMD. AMD, like so many of the chip makers, NVIDIA included, is not a foundry. They're a chip design company. They sell their designs to other businesses, right? But when those businesses order chips, AMD has to get them from a foundry that makes the chips. That foundry is Taiwan Semiconductors, so they're based in Taiwan. Any Taiwan tariffs, especially focused on chips, would be an impact on AMD's business.
Well, all these industry and economic factors considered, what are the institutions doing when it comes to AMD stock?
Institutional activity is very interesting right now, because the institutions reverted to buying in the second half of 2024 and they've ramped their activity in 2025. The balance of activity is very bullish. Buying volume outpaces selling volume by 1.5 to 1, and that creates a pretty strong tailwind for the market.
It seems institutions are also bullish on the future of AMD, much like yourself. But there's other stocks. It's not just AMD. There's other tech stocks, other AI stocks that have all seen a sharp decline since the start of the year. Do you think that that positive sentiment on AMD's future applies to a lot of these other tech stocks that are also struggling right now?
Yes, I think it does. I've seen that same institutional trend among many prominent tech names where they reverted to buying in the second half of last year and ramped their activity this year. That's telling me that when the stock prices corrected, the institutions stepped in to buy them. So what's really been happening, the same as with AMD, it's just a reset of outlook. The outlook for this year's earnings growth was very robust at the start of the year, and it still is pretty robust, but it has diminished a little bit, and that's just causing the market to pause, to consolidate, and to reestablish its base of support so that it could continue to rally later on this year.
You're looking for the rally. I think every investor is, because we've seen anything but a rally so far this year. How long do you think it could take before this volatility kind of eases up a little bit?
I would say that once we get some clarity on Trump's policies and the tariff outlook, we will get a pretty strong rebound in the broad market. But what I will say is that so far, the threats have not caused a major market meltdown. We're showing some resilience right now. I would expect to see the market continue to move sideways unless there is a real significant change in the fundamentals, and so far that hasn't come.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing your take, Thomas. We'd love to hear from you. What are your thoughts on AMD and its future? And if you haven't checked out our other AMD video just last month, check that video out too. We've got the link in the comments. Thanks for joining us, everyone. And as always, happy investing.